Third, to the greatest hero of all time. These are all of Izuku Midoriya, aka Deku's forms in My Hero Academia. And let's start with his quirkless form. Now, 80% of the people in the world of My Hero Academia have superpowers, called quirks. But Izuku, yeah, he didn't have one. Nope. When all the other kids started getting quirks, Izuku found out by a doctor that he was quirkless. Like Bakugo was shooting explosions from his hand, while Izuku was just completely normal, and well, pretty weak. Still, even without a quirk, Izuku never gave up on his dream of becoming a hero, just like his idol All Might. I mean, this guy is obsessed with heroes, so he studied and wrote down everything related to heroes in his notebooks to prepare himself for when he becomes a hero. And even when his classmates straight up laughed at him and bullied him nonstop for dreaming of joining the hero school UA High and becoming a hero, Izuku always believed in himself. Because even though he's weak, he's a true hero at heart, which we all saw when Izuku, quirkless and scared, still ran in to save Bakugo when the sludge villain had captured his friend. And All Might, seeing Izuku's bravery and heroic spirit, was super impressed by him. So after blasting away the villain, All Might tracked Izuku down, thanked him for showing him what it means to be a true hero, and even told him that he can be a hero and that he's worthy of inheriting his quirk, One for All. Yup, All Might can actually transfer his quirk to him. Why would he do that though? Because All Might is seriously injured and can't be a hero anymore, so he needed someone worthy to inherit his power. And Izuku, he obviously said yes. So All Might begins to train him super hard. Because if he doesn't train his body, the power of the quirk will literally blow his body apart. So after 10 months of intense training, this guy is way stronger, and All Might finally gives Izuku a small piece of his quirk. Yup, literally a piece of hair he needs to eat. And with that, it gets us to Izuku's second form, his One for All quirk form. After inheriting One for All, Izuku can actually only handle 5% of its power, though it's still really powerful. And the first time he uses his new powers were during the UA entrance exam to save Uraraka. Now, One for All gives its user an insane boost to everything: strength, speed, agility, durability, yep, everything. Which we saw when he launched himself into the air and smashed the giant robot with a single punch. However, Izuku had zero control over One for All's entire body. Still, that heroic moment of saving Uraraka actually got him into the school of his dreams, UA High's hero course. But things don't get easier, as during the quirk apprehension test, Izuku almost gets expelled, as Aizawa rages at him and literally tells him he can't be a hero if he doesn't find a way to stop breaking his body when using his quirk. And that changes everything! Yep, Izuku focuses One for All into just the tip of one of his fingers and launches the ball super far. I mean, sure, he broke his finger, but not his body. So from there, with a bit more control over One for All, Izuku beats Bakugo in the battle trials. He saves Asui and Mineta at USJ, gives Shoto an insane fight during the sports festival, and he shows that he's one of the strongest in the entire class because of his power and insane battle IQ. That said, his reckless use of One for All gave him scars and even seriously damaged his arms and hands. So he needed to find a way to get more control of his quirk, and that brings us to his next form, his One for All full cowl form. During his internship with Gran Torino, he learns to spread the 5% power of One for All across his entire body instead of just focusing his quirk on one part. And not only does full cowl give him insane strength, speed, and mobility, it also stops him from breaking his bones in every fight. However, although this is way safer, it also makes his attacks a bit weaker. When full cowl is active, you can literally see the power flowing through him, with red vein-like lines that glow across his body. And when he really pushes it, his body starts to glow with a green lightning aura. So with full cowl, Izuku can sprint up buildings, jump across rooftops, and zip through tight spaces like it's nothing. And since he becomes way physically stronger, he can even react to Gran Torino's speed, hold his own against Stain, and even go toe-to-toe against Bakugo. And thanks to his training, he naturally pushes full cowl from 5% to 8% without hurting himself, and from there, he just keeps on increasing its power. Plus, instead of relying on his arms, Izuku starts using his legs, creating attacks like Shoot Style, St. Louis Smash, and even Manchester Smash. That said, if Izuku goes past his current full cowl percentage, it hurts him a lot, which is a serious problem when he's fighting super strong villains. And that actually gets us to his next form, his One for All 100% form. Using 100% of One for All means Izuku is unleashing the full power of One for All into whatever body part he's attacking with. But yeah, that body part will absolutely break right after. Like he used 100% against Shoto during the sports festival, which wrecked his own arm so badly he needed surgery. And then against Muscular, he pushed his right arm so far past its limit, it even got permanent scars. But when Izuku's up against someone who is stronger than him, he doesn't care. He'll destroy himself if it means taking down a villain and saving people. When using 100% of One For All, Izuku can also use attacks like 100% Detroit Smash, and the ultimate move 1,000,000% Delaware Detroit Smash. Now, no, Izuku didn't actually use 1,000,000%. But in that moment, fueled by pure adrenaline, rage, and desperation, he went all out and absolutely blasted Muscular. As the punch was so strong, it launched Muscular straight into the mountain and took him out. But talking about One For All 100%, we reach his next form, his One For All Full Cowl 100% form. This time, instead of using 100% into his fist, he spreads the power across his entire body, giving him literally All Might level speed and strength. But how is that possible without literally breaking his body? Well, the first time we saw this insane form was against Overhaul, and here Eri is clutching onto him. And thanks to her rewind quirk, every bit of damage Deku does to himself gets instantly healed. So, yep, he can go all out with zero consequences. And as I said, this form is ridiculously powerful, with fire-like energy streaming from his eyes and his hair spiking up from the sheer power, and easily taking Overhaul out. Izuku once again used this form against Fleck Turn, moving faster than the eye can track and overwhelming his Reflect quirk with a non-stop barrage of punches and finally knocking him out with the absolutely insane United States of Worlds Smash. But now things get even crazier as we reach Izuku's next form, his 2-quirk Blackwhip form. During the joint training battle between Class 1A and 1B, these dark wild energy tendrils just explode out of Izuku's arm and tear up the battlefield while yanking him around and hurting him. But after being stopped by Uraraka and Shinso, Izuku ends up inside his subconscious and meets Daigoro Banjo, the 5th user of One For All. Yep, Izuku is actually the 9th user of One For All, and the quirks of the previous users have been slowly merging into it and getting stronger over time. So Daigoro tells him that he's going to start unlocking more quirks soon, but the first one to awaken is his own quirk, Blackwhip. Blackwhip lets Izuku create these black energy tendrils from his body and control them however he wants. Shimura. And this quirk lets the user lift off the ground and stay in the air. But because it's powered by One For All's insane stockpiled energy, Float isn't just hovering, it straight up makes you fly super fast. So sorry Bakugo, but Izuku can now also fly. Yeah, Izuku awakened Float right when Shigaraki was about to literally kill every single hero on the battlefield with his decay as he yanked Shigaraki into the air and saved everyone by grabbing them with Blackwhip. But that was actually not the only quirk Izuku awakened during this war, as we get to his next form, his 4 quirks, Danger Sense form. Danger Sense is the quirk of the former 4th user of One For All, Hikage Shinomori, and this quirk basically gives Izuku a 6th sense, as if someone nearby wants to hurt him, Izuku basically gets a lightning bolt going off in his brain, and he knows exactly where the attack is coming from, which we saw when the quirk first awakened after Bakugo got stabbed by Shigaraki, and then it went off again when Gigantomachia was about to break free. Then, after Dabi knocked him out, he finally realized he had awakened Danger Sense. The problem is that he has zero practice with it, so as his brain is basically getting spammed with warning signals non-stop, it literally almost knocks him out. But of course, this guy keeps fighting. But after getting the hang of it, he uses this insanely OP quirk to dodge attacks from villains like Muscular and Shigaraki in close-range fights, and he even dodges Lady Nagant's bullets mid-air. On top of that, he uses it like a crime radar, feeling that sharp twinge and immediately heading straight toward danger. But from the Paranormal Liberation War, we go straight into Izuku's next form, which is his Dark Hero and 5 quirks Smokescreen form. After all that chaos and destruction at Jakku City, Izuku teams up with All Might, Endeavor, and Hawks to hunt down Shigaraki and his allies to take them out. But yeah, Izuku is emotionally and physically crushed. Still, he pushes way past his limits to track Shigaraki down so no one else can get hurt, taking it all on himself. Then boom, he runs into Muscular again, and this is where we see his 6th quirk, Smokescreen. Smokescreen is the quirk of the former 6th user of One For All, En Tayutai, and this quirk allows the user to generate a thick cloud of purple smoke from their body, and this smoke can spread and cover a very wide area, which basically blinds his opponents so he can catch them by surprise. However, when he first uses Smokescreen against Muscular, he messes up and releases way too much smoke, completely covering himself and even blinding his own vision. But, using Float to float over the city, he uses Smokescreen to fill the streets with smoke to blind Muscular and force him to go exactly where Izuku wants, so he can smash him with his fist. Later on, Izuku gets even more creative, as he uses Smokescreen as a breath weapon, blowing smoke straight from his mouth during his fight with Shigaraki. He also uses Smokescreen at full blast to distract Lady Nagant. So yeah, Dark Hero Deku is extremely dangerous and ridiculously strong. But going back to his fight with Lady Nagant, because here, we reach Dark Hero Deku's next form, his 6th quirk, Fajin form. Fajin is the quirk of the former 3rd user of One For All Bruce Lee, and this quirk allows the user to build up kinetic energy by doing repeated movements, basically charging up power while red energy starts glowing around him. Then when he releases it, boom! He gets a massive burst of speed and strength all at once, like we saw when he was literally faster than Lady Nagant's bullet and saved Overhaul. Then he used a faux 100% Manchester Smash by using the speed he had built up from Fajin to finally defeat her. The only problem with this quirk is that Izuku has to build up the energy first, which takes a little bit of time. But talking about his 6th quirk, we gotta move on to his full power Deku and his 7th quirk, Gearshift form. Gearshift is the quirk of the former 2nd user of One For All Kudo, and this quirk is OP. Yeah, Gearshift lets Izuku change the speed at which things accelerate through space of anything he touches. And the craziest part? It ignores the laws of inertia. So basically, all you need to know is that Deku can literally break physics with his speed thanks to Gearshift, which we see when he first uses it against Shigaraki during the final war, as he uses the ultimate move Transmission, rockets forward, and starts throwing punches that literally break the sound barrier, with each punch getting faster than the last thanks to Gearshift. Then he combines Gearshift with Fajin and hits Overdrive, a level of power described as 120% of One For All. So now, with all the quirks of the former One For All users, Izuku reaches his full power Deku form. Yeah, we see him use all of his strength and all of his quirks perfectly against Shigaraki in the final war. But Gearshift actually has a really big weakness. Using this quirk for too long and your body won't get enough oxygen. And if you use it again too early, you will literally not be able to move your body. And that brings us to his next form, his Deku Overlay form. After Gearshift wrecks his body, which means he can still use One For All's power, but these embers will eventually burn out and he will become quirkless again. Before that happens though, he uses the powers he has left to finally take out All For One once and for all, and even turn Shigaraki to dust, becoming the hero that saved the entire world. And what's cool is that the embers actually don't disappear right away, as we still see that Izuku has embers left when he rushes to Uraraka to comfort her when she was crying. And he's even got embers left all the way from returning to UA to when he graduates. And that brings us to his next form, his quirkless teacher form. After graduating from UA, the embers of One For All are completely extinguished, and Izuku is now once again quirkless. Yep, Izuku is no longer a hero, so instead he becomes a homeroom teacher at UA, and of course he's super popular. But honestly, it's the perfect job for him. Yeah, he actually teaches hero history, and this guy obviously knows everything about the history of heroes since he's been through it all. Like, he literally saved the world against the strongest villains ever, and he's even talked to all former One For All users to know everything that happened in the past. Although, he does still talk way too fast and just mumbles. Still, he loves to teach and guide the next generation of heroes, though Aizawa definitely thinks he needs to be way stricter with his students. However, deep down, he does still miss being a hero. And that brings us to his last form, his pro-hero armored Deku and teacher form. Yep, All Might and everyone from Class 1A, together with Melissa Shield and Mei Hatsume, actually created a high-tech combat suit for him, which actually was mostly funded and led by Bakugo, since this guy is rich and wanted his rival back. Anyway, Izuku immediately starts crying because yeah, he gets to be a hero again, and this suit is OP. It gives him artificial versions of all his old quirks like Blackwhip and Float, and he also becomes insanely strong, crazy fast. Yeah, he basically gets One For All in a suit. So after becoming a hero again, he instantly shoots up to number 4 in the hero rankings, known as One For All Hero Deku. Though I definitely think he should be number 1 for literally saving the entire world. Anyway, this guy is now basically Iron Man. But even though he's now a hero again, he still stays at UA as a teacher because he just loves to share his experience with others every day. Which of Izuku's forms is your favorite? Let me know in the comments below.